Under cover of night, under a layer of clouds so thick not even heaven could spy them, 3 witches awaited a 4th. "What is taking so long?" demanded Elvira, the youngest of the 3 who anxiously paced about the forest floor. "Patience, child," ensured the good Mother Adisa. She stood still, glaring into the night from under her hood, one hand resting upon the leather bag that dangled from her waist. "Patience is lost, good mother," Elvira sneered. "The hour is upon us. We must not waste this chance." "The hour has come and gone every year for the last 300 years, child," Adisa droned. "I have waited this long, and, if need be, I shall wait longer. I have survived, and so shall you." "What could possibly be fetching, anyways?" Elvira continued. "What could only be fetched at this night, at this hour?" "Something fresh," Adisa purred. "Something foul. Tell me, young one, are you aware of a trick the mortals once used canaries for?" "I don't concern myself with such insipid creatures," Elvira groaned. "No creature exists which repulses me so." "The young one grates on my ears," the male witch called Kerrigan snapped from above. Like a spider, he sat perched on the bark of the closest birch tree, almost like he was waiting to pounce. "And you are like salted daggers to my eyes, my beloved Kerrigan," said Elvira mockingly. She bowed beneath his leering gaze. "Yet I can put aside my discomfort, for I have no want or need of pity, unlike you." "What does the rat imply?" Kerrigan hissed. "Surely you know," Elvira said, righting herself, brushing her black, silky hair out of her face. "You cannot possibly be as doltish as you appear." Leaping downwards, feral and agile, Kerrigan landed amidst the leaf litter, scattering it to the winds. Elvira embraced herself, expecting an assault, but Kerrigan merely stood where he landed. Her eyes were cast to the shadows beyond, as were Adisa's. Turning, Elvira was quick to join the others in welcoming their long-awaited final member. "Seren Heart," Adisa beckoned. "I take your travels were not in vain?" "Better not be," Kerrigan croaked. Weariness and exhaustion stretched across Seren's wrinkled and aged face. Alongside her, she carried what appeared to be a large birdcage with rusted wire and a black lock. Inside, something stirred, a dancing grey mist. "So it would appear," Seren muttered bitterly, extending the cage for all to see. "Behold," Adisa said with pride, "the canary." Inside, the mist spun about, darting from wire to wire, searching for a way out of the enchanted entrapment. The closer Adisa got, the louder the sounds it made, like steam boiling from a kettle. "What was his name?" Adisa asked. "In life," Seren croaked, "Eddie Glenn is what he was called. Executed this night, the 13th of October, for crimes against the state of Kentucky. Murderer, rapist, destroyer of children and women alike." "Marvelous," gleamed Adisa. "He smells perfectly putrid." "Probably because they fried him," Serena said, passing Adisa with a sly, sideways glance. The 2 of them chuckled. The hissing the spirit made started coming more sporadically. "When will he regain the ability to speak?" Adisa asked, suddenly impetuous. "For if he cannot speak, then the plan will not—" "Minutes," Seren snapped. "Mere minutes, good mother. Calm yourself. Tonight is not a good night on which to lose one's head." Seren approached Elvira apprehensively. "It's good to see you, Seren," Elvira said, grabbing the edges of her blood-stained robes to curtsy. Seren patted the young enchantress on her shoulder, coldly saying, "I wish I could say the same, wretched child." Elvira, tongue-in-cheek, followed Seren with a cruel glimmer in her eyes. "Let's get on with it," Kerrigan grumbled, joining Seren. "That soul will not stay trapped forever. The time, it grows... Shut up, the good mother barked. Time will wait for us. We will make it so. As they walked, and Adisa and Elvira lagged behind, Seren tilted her head as to make sure they all heard her when she said, Tonight is destined. Time is not our enemy tonight, for she will wait for us. Tonight it is by our will that the planet turns and the stars align. Ahead, the opening of a massive cave, just as it had been foretold, just as it had been destined. Its maw beckoned them forth. All four grouped together, and each pulled out a knife. Rusted iron met molted flesh as they carved into the palms of their hands, all except for Seren, who was assisted by the good mother. Forth from their blood, when held aloft, flames were birthed into the night. The fire they each held in their right hands would grant them light and passage through the cavern. With wicked torches blazing, and with Canary proxy in tow, the coven entered the mysterious cove. Although the entryway was massive, the walls of the cave quickly constricted into tight-fitting tunnels that the witches eventually had to squeeze through single file. Leading the way was Adisa and her canary, the man once known as Eddie Glenn. He was finally starting to talk again, his words a melody to the good mother's ears. Kill you, and wear your skins, flay you alive for days and days, one piece by fucking piece, I swear to God. God has abandoned you to our care, Adisa said, taking over the irate, raving spirit. You need only to swear to us from now on. Taking up the back, Kerrigan and Elvira followed with a conversation of their own, a conversation that Kerrigan would rather not have. I still don't understand why we need him, Elvira said, with a naivety that made Kerrigan physically revolt. Stupid child, he hissed, more to himself than to her. Stupid, moronic fucking girl. The fact that the good mother thought it right to bring you along, well, I wonder about her sanity. Why do you all despise me so? Elvira asked. Because of your youth, Kerrigan said, honestly. We've waited so long for this night, and you have merely attached yourself, a pestering deer-fly who caught a lucky wind at the final moment, leeching on our efforts. You haven't earned this. Now, talk no more. Answer my original question, you petulant worm, Elvira bemoaned through gritted teeth, and I'll stop talking. Why, the canary? Grumbling, but more than willing to accept her offer, Kerrigan spoke. The energies, the magics we seek inside these forbidden foundations are unlike anything your bumbling mind can imagine. We know not the extent of its power, only that it calls us here. That is why we bring the spirit. You state the obvious, Elvira said, but fail to answer. Our powers draw from the Dark Lord, the fallen one below. Kerrigan interrupted impatiently, showing off the fire that burned from his palm. We draw from the powers beyond the light, from immortal darkness. That is our well, our source, the lifeblood of all we conjure, the place to which our souls are bonded and claimed. Despite how otherworldly it may seem, our power comes solely from this world, this reality, and this world only. Are you suggesting that there are other sources of power, beyond what he below has granted us? Precisely, you babbling child. Other powers from beyond our realms, stranger powers. Stopping, he cast her a wicked glance. Better powers. To this, Elvira couldn't help but grin back. Disgust filled Kerrigan's face once more, and he scuttled forward. But it is an alien magic, he continued. We know not of what it is, where it is, or how it acts, and how it will greet us. It is likely we will not know when we are close, if it is having an effect on us. Are you suggesting it might harm us? Elvira asked. I am not, Kerrigan said. I'm telling you that it will harm us. But we cast protection spells earlier. Those should defend us from magic, our own powers. We are drawing from a different energy here, an energy that should make even darkness itself shiver, an energy that is wild, free, and as of yet untamed, like lightning. Ahead, the spirit in the cage had started to wail, its anger collapsing, seemingly, into some kind of despair. Where am I? I'll kill you. What are you doing? Where is the... God, I'm dead. Dead. But where? Elvira, ignoring the soul's ramblings, said to Kerrigan, And you brought a mystical lightning rod. The only smart thing I have ever heard you say, young one. Yes, a lightning rod. A naked exposed soul will show a negative reaction to these alien energies. For spirits born in our world are crafted from the same well of magical energy. It's how we have power over them. So, when exposed to a foreign energy, they'll have a negative reaction? Elvira asked. Like oil and water, Kerrigan affirmed. They won't mix, and the spirit will let us know. That way we can't be taken off guard, and we'll know when to strike. When we can steal and harness this ancient force for ourselves. How will it know? How will it show? I imagine it'll hurt like hell, Kerrigan said. Now, enough questions. They moved in silence, and Elvira upheld her end of the bargain. She waited until they came to a circular, open chamber before she asked another question, this time to the good mother. Why a bastard? She asked. Why not someone simpler? A child, a babe, even the simple soul of a cat or dog? And why someone else's kill? Kerrigan audibly moaned, despite Elvira asking the question of good Mother Adisa. The good mother and Elvira ignored the impertinent creature. Similar poles have the strongest opposing reactions when exposed to another of the same, she explained quickly. The power we seek is overflowing with vile, repulsive energies, so it was only suiting that we find a soul equally as repulsive, one freshly raised, one that hasn't been touched by our contaminated hands. Leaving the young one pondering what she'd just been told, the good mother came to the side of the deliberating Seren. She stood before the passageway out of the chamber. In fact, she stood before 3 of them. Over the deranged begging, cursing, and screaming of the increasingly confused and dreading soul, Seren asked of the good mother, Which way do we go? We daren't split up, good Mother Adisa advised. Let's leave all but one blind and risk one claiming the powers for themselves alone. Seren nodded in agreement. But how much time could we waste exploring each one? How many hours would it take? Days? Years? We do not know this power. It could stretch these caverns on for an endless eternity. Our search could take eons. The good mother scorned her. Do not be foolish. Do you hold in your own shriveled hands, sister? Seren looked to the enchanted cage. But we would still have to search, she said in defeat. To deceive us, these caverns could go on for miles and miles before we might even get a sign. We've been getting signs for the last quarter mile, you fool, said the good mother, reaching down to take the cage from her daft sister. The witches watched as, one by one, the good mother entered each tunnel. Starting on the left, she took 5 steps inside, noted that no change had been made in the state of Eddie Glenn's demeanor, and returned to the chamber. She repeated the process in the middle passage, and again returned. It was in the 3rd passageway that her intentions became clear. After only 3 steps, Eddie Glenn's soul stopped its screaming. The witches watched as a face emerged from the massless fog inside the cage. It peered into the darkness, and it shivered. What is that? Eddie asked. The good mother turned to them, a wicked look on her face. You think the madman's ramblings were his own? She asked of Sedan. They were a side effect of this new force. His anger is failing. His fear is growing. You can hear it. You can see it now. This is the path we must take. Good Mother Adisa turned, guiding the coven further into darkness. Beneath her breath, she mumbled something only the frightful Eddie could hear. And I believe we're closer than we know. It was a statement that, indeed, turned out to be true. With each step they took, the fear on Eddie Glenn's ethereal face grew grimmer and grimmer. No longer did the same vitriol exist within his voice with which he had greeted the witches. Now there was only alarm, only terror. Please, stop, he implored. Please, I don't know what you want, but God, can't you feel it? The frozen claws. Can't you smell it? A foul festering. Can't you taste it? Oh, it's like copper rot. Please turn back. Take me away. I'll give you anything. Anything. The witches didn't even slow their step. They had no need to. Their soul could sense the darkness within the earth, could feel it, taste it, smell it, but it had not yet been physically touched by it. They were still safe. They were still in control. Ahead, the tunnels opened up once again into a cavern, the final cavern. They could tell by the way Eddie screamed. Let me go, please. Oh, God, let me go. Open this cage. It burns. Please, so close, so close. I hear it. It's calling. It's waiting. None of us are safe. Please. Elvira whispered. Should we be wary? Kerrigan responded with a stern tone. Very. The power is here. They entered the chamber. Amazed, the good mother held the cage of Eddie Glenn high in the air like a lantern, and he responded with a chorus of horrible screeching. It's beautiful, the good mother whispered. The sight they viewed was harrowing. The chamber, domed and massive, echoed their footsteps. At its epicenter, stretching from ground to ceiling like a pillar, was a massive tree trunk. From its head, massive branches snaked through the air and upwards into the ceiling where they embedded themselves, burrowing across the ceiling. On the floor, the roots did exactly the same, knotting around each other and across the floor. Had it not been for the ever-present and self-aligning touch of gravity, the witches wouldn't have been able to distinguish the top from the bottom. The soul's pitiful screams didn't have to tell them. They could all see that the tree was hardly natural. They could all sense it. The room seemed aflutter with static electricity. It pleasurably tickled their skins. It made them all hungry for more. The good mother led them down into the sloped chamber, but not too hastily. Although the idea of the power was already so intoxicating, all the witches held on to their self-control, onto their sense of rationality. Just because it seemed safe didn't mean it was. Once they'd reached the tree's base, and only then, the good mother set the inconsolable spirit that used to be Eddie Glenn on the ground. She pulled out a spellbook from her bag. She placed it in midair, and it stayed there. Quick, she told the others. We must be quick. The power is dormant. We must awake it and take it into ourselves before it can react against us. The three others eagerly did as their good mother proclaimed. They each released the fire from their hands. Each flame remained positioned where they'd left it, hovering in the air just above their heads. Each witch found a root, and they placed their bloody hands onto the plant. The cold filled them. Warmth drained. It was more inebriating than anything they'd ever experienced before. With this power, the good Mother Adisa proclaimed, placing one hand on the tree's base while the other turned pages in her floating book, we will become what no other on this world ever has, masters of darkness, and masters of something more. The three witches looked at her with hungry, almost orgasmic eyes. With his power, heaven and hell will tremble. One will fall to its destruction. The other will be raised, brought to us so that we may rule over it ourselves. More than any witch has ever dreamed, more than any god has ever feared, we will rewrite creation itself. She found the right page and greedily spoke. Today, we will become the dark gods of myth, and we become eternal, for we... She stopped, because a new sound had erupted from Eddie Glenn's cage. The canary was no longer just chirping. The canary was no longer wailing. The canary had gone quiet. Silence erupted from Eddie Glenn's cage. The canary was dead. Listlessly, Eddie's petrified face fell, pieces of it dispersing along the bottom of the cage. Nothing showed in what was left of his visage. No emotion, no fear, no pain, no understanding. "He's been cut off," the good mother whispered, for the first time in her life, in fear. "What's happened?" Elvira asked. "Why has it done that? Is that a sign?" "No," Saren shouted, standing up, releasing the tree's foul root. "He's been severed. That's not possible." "What do you mean?" Elvira asked. "What does that even—" "He's been severed from our reality," the good mother said, tears in her eyes. "From the afterlife. His soul has been severed, for it is about to forever be stolen." Elvira asked, "What heresy do you speak?" "All souls, all magics are connected to our world," the good mother whispered, "to the powers either above or below. The soul is tethered there forever. That's why our hold on this soul couldn't last. That tether pulls you when you die. It claims your soul for either the one above or the one below. But Eddie's is no more. His soul is no longer theirs to own. It shouldn't be possible." "What does that mean?" Elvira asked, standing up as well. "It means, awful brat," Kerrigan said, turning a look of panic on his face, "that we miscalculated. Severely. We have to—" His voice was cut off. The three noticed that Kerrigan hadn't stood. Soon noticed that he hadn't been able to. A string of claws, like the body of a centipede, had emerged from the tree's roots, and they had coiled themselves around Kerrigan's hand. "No," Kerrigan said. No, this can't be. You can't. No." Then, with a great force, the root ejected more insectoid tendrils. A whole mass of them wrapped around Kerrigan's face and neck, torso and legs. His screams became muffled as claws filled his mouth and dragged him to the ground. They moved him along the root, like a neatly wrapped package, towards the base of the knotted tree. The bark started to open. A crack formed along the baseline, and the face of the tree lifted upwards, spanning into a massive and ghastly maw. Squirming, Kerrigan was still alive when he entered the maw, but a few masticating blows from the tree's awful, jagged teeth, and the witch was no more. And neither was his soul. "It took him," the good mother muttered. "It took him and his soul. It shouldn't be possible. It can't be possible. Only God can—" "Good mother," Elvira called, noticing the roots starting to pull themselves from the ground. "We need to go. Now." "There's no escape, child," good Mother Adisa explained. Elvira turned to see that the door they'd entered through had already faded. The good mother already knew this. It had all been a trap. They'd been cut off from their world, from their powers, from their God. "Our souls are his now," said the good mother, looking up to the unholy creature before them. The witches cried and screamed as, very slowly, their torches flickered away, and nothing was left but squirming and darkness. Thanks for taking the time to drop by and watch this video. You know what would make me a happy doctor? Hitting that like button, leaving a comment, and subscribing to my channel. Go on, I've got plenty more stories to tell you.